Oh, what an exciting world. Satellites, waveguides, lasers, magnetic bubbles, fiber optics, picture phones someday, maybe even in color.
Hello and welcome to part 1 of responsive web design. In this video, we'll talk about mobile first concepts. Mobile first was developed by Luke Wroblewski, who's an excellent web strategist and wrote the book on it. His website also has some really great insights, and he's definitely a good Twitter follow. More and more people are using mobile devices to access the web instead of desktop computers. So the theory goes that we should design for the mobile experience and then build them up towards the desktop size. It used to be that we would start with the desktop size and then adapt the sizes downwards for mobile devices. The nice thing is that our existing tools, experiences, and skills will still apply to the mobile-first world, but we will need to think differently about organization, actions, inputs, and layout on mobile. We'll also need to have solid information architecture, like we always have. We need good labeling, good logical organization, all of that. But our organization of mobile web experiences also needs to do a few things. 1, it should align with how people use their mobile devices and why. 2, it should emphasize content over navigation. 3, it should provide relevant options for exploration and navigation. And 4, maintain clarity and focus. Aligning with mobile behaviors. The best way to deal with mobile is to think about what mobile is uniquely good at and align it with the needs of your users. These mobile behaviors usually divide up into these 4 categories. Number 1, lookup/find. I need an answer to something now, usually related to my location in the world. Answers to questions like, how do I get there? What's nearby that I'm interested in? And so on. Number 2, explore/play. I have a few minutes to kill and I want some distraction. Play your turn and words with friends while you're waiting for something. And so on. Number 3, check-in/status. Something important to me keeps changing or updating, and I need to know about it right away, like sports scores or flight information. Number 4, edit/create. I need to get something done now that can't wait. Live tweeting, posting a picture on Facebook that needs immediate attention, or sending an important message, things like that. When we align our designs with mobile behaviors, we're also aligning our designs with real-world needs. Since mobile web can be experienced anywhere, the best-case scenario is being useful to people wherever they are. Removing unnecessary stuff in our designs is always a good idea. Content over navigation. In general, people need information more than they need a way to navigate through your site. So make sure that your content takes precedence over your nav bar. Even a few years ago, mobile designs were dominated by navigation, but things have gotten better since then. Pivot and explore. This is not to say that there should be no navigation in our mobile-first designs. Ideally, there should be some way for your users to move around to relevant content, just not so much that it takes away valuable real estate from content. Recently, the trend has been to stuff a menu inside of a menu button, or a hamburger icon, or something similar. And when you tap on it, you don't lose your place on the website. Sometimes you get an off-screen menu that slides in, or a modal window that pops up over your place on the site, or something like that. Here too is where we can use things like back to top or anchor links, just as we would on a desktop design. An important note about navigation on mobile. Rarely do you see website navigation bars that are fixed to the bottom on a mobile. That's because the mobile browser navigation is already down there. And many non-Apple devices have actual physical back buttons or other physical controls below the screen. So while some navigation bars may look good on desktop sites or mobile apps, it's probably not a great idea for mobile web experiences. Fixing a menu like this to the top is usually a better idea. Maintain clarity and focus. The limited real estate of a mobile device is a great opportunity to cut out the clutter and focus on what's most important. Sometimes we're only using one eyeball and one thumb at a time with our devices, and sometimes not even paying full attention. Clear, focused designs are really important, especially when completing tasks. With less clutter to make a mistake on, users are less likely to tap on something they didn't intend to. Actions. We probably could devote a whole course on studying how people physically interact with their phones. We don't have time for that in this course, so let's look at some common actions and interactions. There are plenty of places worldwide, some in developing countries, where trackpads and QWERTY keyboards and numeric keypads are still an important way of interacting with a mobile device. But domestically, touchscreens are dominant, so what do we need to know? Number 1, touch targets need to be appropriately sized and positioned. Number 2, we should be familiar with common touch gestures and how they align with users' objectives. Number 3, what to do without being able to hover over stuff. Number 4, what to do about indirect or natural user interfaces. The various manufacturers all have different ideas on what should be an appropriate touch target size, like for a button you would tap as if you were clicking with a mouse. Apple recommends a minimum of 44 by 44 points, while Microsoft recommends 9 millimeters. It's also important to have enough space in between touch targets too, so use your padding and margins smartly. As for where to put the targets, here's a diagram based on some user studies of easy, okay, and hard to reach areas of a standard smartphone, if you were holding it with your right hand. Most people are right-handed, so we'll go with that assumption here. As smartphones get larger, this diagram changes too. Knowing how people use their thumbs and fingers can give you a direction as to where to put certain things. Maybe you want to put destructive actions like delete or cancel outside of where it's easy to tap, like a failsafe. Luke Wroblewski has an excellent guide to touch gestures on his website. It has some answers to the question, if someone wants to take action on an object or screen, which touch gestures are they going to use? They are doing things like tapping, double tapping, dragging, flicking to move between pictures or whole screens, pinching to zoom, pulling down to refresh, swiping, and more. So it's good to keep these in mind too. What to do about hover? At least on Apple devices, you can't hover over your screen with your finger like you can hover over with a mouse on the desktop. So little pop-up menus you would normally see on a desktop, you have to rethink them for mobile. This might be a good thing though. If the information revealed in a hover menu was important to have in the first place, perhaps this should be on the page itself anyway. On mobile, your options for on-hover menus are on screen, on tap, on a separate screen, or gone altogether. I should note that some Android devices can detect a hovering fingertip, so we may see on-hover menus on mobile yet. Having said all this, we are moving past graphical user interface, with things like play video buttons and the like, to something called the natural user interface. An example is YouTube on the desktop. You don't have to click on the play button anymore. You can click anywhere on the video itself to play or pause. We're still in a transition period on this though. Tapping on the video doesn't work on mobile like it does on desktop yet. The last thing we'll talk about is inputs. On the web, most questions are asked through forms, and forms have labels to ask for what they need. But on mobile devices, there are different sets of constraints and capabilities that we need to keep in mind. For example, we would normally put a label to the left of an input field, but we usually don't have the room on a mobile screen. The label is better off on top of the input field, and that helps when half the screen is taken up by the keyboard as we tap away. Remember all the different ways we had to make inputs in forms? Checkboxes, radio buttons, text fields, drop-down lists, and the like? These all have optimal ways to be implemented in a mobile situation. And mobile operating systems are doing this for us in some cases, like giving us a large swipeable list with nice-sized touch targets, instead of a super long drop-down list that you would see on a desktop. I definitely recommend to go back and review the HTML5 input types, because they will help make mobile forms easier for your users to fill out.